Isabella had always lived with her mother, Anette, in a small apartment ever since her father passed away 2 years ago. Life had been difficult since then. Anette worked multiple jobs to keep food on the table, but no matter how hard she tried, the bills kept piling up. Isabella was 17 old and saw the exhaustion in her mother's eyes. She was willing to work, but her mother had always told her to focus on her education since she was under a scholarship, and they both agreed. She missed her father every day and would always wished he was around to ease her mother of the labor and hardships. One day, a rare opportunity presented itself to Anette. She was offered a job abroad, and the company was willing to bring her over without paying anything. If only she says yes. She was happy when she got the information, but was sad with the condition, which was that she could only go alone. She knew that leaving Isabella behind would be the hardest decision of her life, but it was their best shot to a better future. "How long would you be gone, Mom?" Isabella asked her mother, and her mother told her she'd be gone for 2 years. Isabella felt sad and knew she'd be lonely without her mother, but she encouraged her mother to go, so at least things would get better for once. "I think this opportunity is from God, Mom. Besides, we never can tell when the next one would come. And who knows, I could come meet you over there once you start making it little by little," she said, trying to convince her mother, who still wasn't sure of which decision to take. But eventually, she agreed with her daughter and promised to always keep in touch. A week later, when Anette was ready to leave, she took Isabella to her best friend, Sandra's house, whom she had already informed to take care of Isabella while she was away. Sandra was like a sister to her, so she trusted her, although she had done something similar for her twice, so she trusted that Sandra could also do the same for her. "I need you to please help me take care of my daughter Isabella while I'm gone," Anette said in an emotional tone. "You're the only one I can trust with her," she said, and Sandra, without hesitation, promised to treat her as though she was her own child. Sandra had a daughter who was the same age as Isabella, and she promised to treat them like twins. "You can always count on me, sis. You don't need to worry," she said to Anette. Then Anette thanked her and made her way to the airport after leaving all her savings with her for the sake of her daughter. She left Isabella with tearful hugs and whispering promises of a bright future. Then Isabella left with Sandra and Chinaza. Isabella missed her mother for months. She couldn't stop thinking about her. She was surrounded with people, yet she felt lonely. And on the other hand, the life Sandra promised to give her was the opposite of what she did. She treated her like a daughter for the first month, but after 1 month, life became hell for Isabella. For some reasons, Sandra despised her and would treat her like an animal. Isabella slept outside for months and was being fed once in 2 days. She gradually emaciated and fell sick in the process. She couldn't concentrate in school and eventually lost her scholarship, which was one of the most painful things in her life. Life became tough and unbearable for her. She would work day and night and wouldn't be given anything to eat. While her mother, on the other hand, was working tirelessly to send money over. She began to count the number of days remaining to see her beautiful daughter again. She she was completely ignorant of what her daughter was going through. One day, when Isabella couldn't bear the torture any longer, she felt she was going to die if she stayed anymore. So she wrote Sandra a note and made her way to move. But just as she got to the entrance of the door to leave, Sandra opened the door from outside and saw Isabella with her luggages. And immediately, she got furious and dragged Isabella, who was running temperature already and crying. But Sandra refused to listen to her. She called her an ungrateful element and used every kitchen utensils on her. She beat her up without mercy until Isabella began to throw up. Annette, on the other hand, finally arrived at the airport. She was already a millionaire and was ready to leave after working for a year and 6 months. No one expected her arrival. She wanted to make it a surprise, so she rushed to Sandra's house happily, expecting to see her daughter healthy and happy. Her daughter usually suffers from health issues, which Sandra was fully aware of. So that gave Annette confidence that Sandra would never lay a hand on her daughter, since she was aware of her daughter's condition. So, she got to Sandra's house and knocked. But when she didn't get a response, out of excitement, she opened the door and found no one. Then, she followed a sound that led her to the kitchen with joy. But when she got there, the sight that greeted her shattered her heart. Isabella knelt on the floor, frail and bruised. Her once bright eyes dulled by pains, and one was already swollen. Tears streamed down Annette's eyes as she glared at Sandra. Couldn't say anything at that point. Annette got heartbroken. She knew that Sandra was fully aware that the girl she was torturing had just lost her father and was trying to heal. What offense did she commit? Tell me. What offense did she commit for this? She asked Sandra as tears kept running down her eyes. She walked down to her daughter and asked her if that was how it had always been. But Isabella couldn't speak. She was bruised on her lips and had a blood in her mouth due to the injury. So she nodded slowly. Annette got angry. She had the urge to slap Sandra and dismantle her face, but she decided to control herself. She had trusted her best friend, the only one she thought would protect her daughter in her absence, but instead, her daughter suffered in silence, and without a word, Annette scooped Isabella into her arms. Her mind made up. She refused to listen to Sandra's apologies. "You promised," Annette said, her voice cold and filled with grief. "You gave me your word," she said, and Sandra couldn't stop pleading for forgiveness. But Annette couldn't bear to listen. "Thank you for all you've done. You've done more than enough already." She turned away, taking Isabella with her, determined to give her daughter the life she deserved. This time, there would be no distance, no more leaving behind. Annette vowed nothing would ever come between her and her daughter again. She took her daughter to a luxurious new home she had planned to surprise her with. And some weeks later, Isabella was whole again and happy. Also, she went to one of the best private schools, and she had the best life ever. While Annette eventually forgave Sandra, but she cut her off her boundaries and spent quality times with her daughter like never before.